January here in Phoenix, and as you can kind of see behind me, it is time to do our hard cutbacks. January, basically the entire month of January, is a pretty good window here in Phoenix for us to perform our hard cutbacks. And in this video I wanted to show you kind of before and after my entire side garden, before and after my hard cutback. So I do have a couple of individual videos on my channel where I do a hard cutback on an individual rose, and I kind of walk through those steps. But in this video I wanted to show you my overall garden, kind of the before and after, and also just a couple of tips or pointers or what I tend to do for a couple of different types of roses. So I do have like my tree roses and some mini roses, as well as some ground cover roses, as well as just the Floribundas hybrid teas. I do have a couple of climbing vines in there as well, and I also kind of show my ladybanks as well. So like I said, I will be showing kind of before, during, and after my hard cutback. So here is my yard before I do my hard cutbacks. And here everything is after I've cut everything back for the most part. Most of the green are these piles, so I've got a couple piles of everything I took off. And when we get up closer, we can see I've got a garden of sticks. And basically you can tell that most of this is about done blooming. None of these really have new buds or anything on them. Most of them have thrown up everything, and there's just a couple of stragglers like this one here, but other than that, this Oklahoma is basically done. So like this here, this Oklahoma, this is just the standard hybrid tea. I'm gonna cut probably a 1/2 to 3/4 back on this one, down to the nice sturdy canes. Again, I have a video on exactly how to do that. Here's the Oklahoma. I would say this is kind of like a lower hard cutback. Blue Girl, there is a couple of buds left on it. I will either collect the bud, dry the leaf, or make some rose water or something with this bud if I do end up cutting it back while it still does have some buds on it. So I won't, I guess, waste the bud or the bloom of the rose. And then over here I have Blue Girl, and I feel like I took a lot more off of this one. I feel like this one didn't have as many new canes on it, and so I wanted to take a lot more back to see if we can get more new canes. I've got some ground cover roses. So on the left is my coral drift rose. You can see by the spent coral blooms. And then on the right, this is a flower carpet rose. And these I will actually do hard cutbacks on. So again, here this is the coral drift rose, and really you do not need to do a hard cutback on it, but I will. And this one might not be as extreme as kind of the hard cutbacks that I do for the hybrid tea. This one's more of a cleanup, but I will defoliate most of this rose, especially leaves that look like this. So these leaves are, you know, pretty much ready to go. I don't really want these on for the spring, so anything with that I will try and get those off, put them back. I will thin it out and keep a lot of the sturdy canes, and I do actually have a video pruning this individual rose, but I did want to point this out in this video that yes, I do kind of a hard cut back for this type of rose. This one is the drift rose. Another type of rose that I do have here in my garden are these little mini roses. These ones are so cute, and they look, I guess, small and maybe not as hardy, but I actually do also do a hard cut back on these, and I actually do think I have a hard cut back video for these as well. that I will also be linking. So even for these types of roses, I still think a good, nice hard cutback for the winter is going to let it pop back and grow into its cute little shape here for the spring. And back hiding over here, I have, this is one of my miniature roses. It's a little sunblaze rose. So you can see I did give it a nice hard cutback. I tend to leave more canes on the mini roses than I would like the hybrid teas, but I did do kind of like a hard cutback on it. I have another flower carpet that's getting a little not as nice with the leaves. It looks like they might have a little bit of black spot. For me at this time in this climate that I live in, which is in Phoenix, it's really not concerning. I'm just going to give it a nice cut back and defoliate it, and it's just going to come back in the spring with no issues. I just trimmed it back, and I tried to get a lot of the leaves that were showing the age off. I still need to get some of that off, but I defoliated anything that wasn't looking really good and did a trim. So I was trimming this distant drums over here, and I came across a cane, come on, that looked like this. And so you can see this is greener, younger, kind of a nice cane that I would have liked to keep, but then looking into it, it had a little bit of cane borer damage. So that's something that we want to take off. And then I cut it back here, and you can see there's no damage here, so we're good. So if you notice any damage like that, or bug damage or bugs on the rose, you'll probably want to trim that back. Now I do want to show this rose over here. This is actually the same brand of mini rose, but it's a different color. And this is actually in a more treacherous part of my yard that gets a lot of summer sun, and you can tell a lot of it has died back. And this one's just barely hanging on. So in the case of this type of rose, I am not going to give it a hard cut back. I will take off the dead canes to clean it up, but the parts that are healthy, I will not be trimming. I will leave them as they are. And this rose here in front of me, I think is technically considered a hybrid tea. You can see this one's not as tall, and the canes aren't as sturdy on this one. So I will be giving it a trim, but this is not going to be a true hard cutback for this one. I want it to get more established, grow up a little bit more, and have better canes to cut back to before I do a really hard cutback. Like I said, I just gave it a little bit of a prune. I didn't take too much off of it, so it probably looks pretty much the same, except a little grooming. And over here I have Falling in Love, and this one actually had a lot of straight, long, new canes, and what I noticed was it was trying to reach up and grab the sun, and so I decided this year, usually I trim it back a lot lower, but I decided this year to leave it up nice and tall. And I left a lot of the canes on because a lot of them were new that she had just put on this fall, and a lot of them were very healthy. So this isn't very typical, but I want to see how this looks, leaving this up nice and tall here. And here you can see this is my Twilight Zone tree rose. Yeah, it looks pretty barren and stick-like. I have this wonderful Bathsheba climbing vine. This one I pruned on camera, and you can see it. I actually pruned it a couple of months ago, so I did this one more in the fall. So I will not be doing anything with this over the winter. This is kind of filled in. and I'm not going to do anything now again for it in the winter. And over here I have another climbing vine, and this one I did not prune back in the fall. I got a little short on time and I just never got to it. So this one's actually putting on some blooms right now, but you can see it's very wild and it needs a little bit of taming. I did start to prune this one back. You can see over here on this side I've started to trim it up, so that's what the rest of this bush will kind of look like. I'll probably let some of this bloom out, but I will be finishing up the trim on this climbing rose. Alright, and finally over here I have my Lady Banks rose. This is a monster of a, I guess you could call it vine. It's really not a rose and it's really not a vine, but this monster here I trimmed up in the fall. It put on a lot of new growth in the fall. It was getting a little outrageous. I just used regular kind of hedgers to shape it up and get it back into the shape I wanted that we've got here. And basically I have not had to trim this since. I've not really done anything at all to this bush since fall, and I will continue to do nothing, and it will bloom here probably March once spring turns around. And basically after it's done blooming, it will start to grow in, fill in again, and that's when we'll need to trim and cut it up. But for the winter, for this Lady Banks, we really don't need to do anything, especially if we trained it in fall, which is when I like to cut this particular bush. Yep, so this is what they're going to look like for a couple of months. And I do this every year. I always do some sort of hard cutback for all of the roses. Sometimes more, sometimes a little less, just depending on how I feel the bush needs, I guess, in that time. If you have never done a hard cutback and this seems intimidating to you, don't let it intimidate you. It's not very hard, and yeah, your yard's gonna look a little sad for a while, but that's pretty normal, and I think this pays off. I will be doing a video when these come back to life here in spring, blooming again, and I do have other videos on my channel if you want to see past spring garden walkthroughs. And yeah, if you're looking forward to that spring update, please do consider subscribing and liking this video. Thank you very much.